Goldman Sachs is financing a major build-to-rent development in the UK for the first time. The 42-storey skyscraper will be Birmingham's tallest residential building, housing almost 500 flats and a running track on the roof. Goldman Sachs will provide a near £120 million debt facility. Well, Apache Capital partners secured the financing and will jointly own the building alongside Moda Living. Well, Apache's managing director Richard Jackson joins me now. Richard, very good afternoon to you. So, why is Birmingham so attractive?
Well, I think there's a number of opportunities with Birmingham. Firstly, if you look at the national policy by the current government, there's a generational opportunity with the devolution of power to those cities. And Birmingham is taking full advantage of that through its political leadership to promote and encourage economic development, infrastructure, housing.
This is Andy Street, is it?
Correct, and a very progressive approach for high-quality developments. And if you look at Birmingham itself, it's a young population and growing, which is one of our target markets. There's a lot of head offices that have been relocated, such as HSBC, and we can see with the political leadership there that there's a very good medium to long-term story. What
about the fact that HS2 seems to be taking forever to get clearance? Andy, I've spoken to Andy Street in the past, and he said, look, this is a real driver for Birmingham.
I think it is a big driver, but I don't think Birmingham is wholly reliant upon HS2 in terms of its performance. And I think that devolution really helps for local councils to be able to govern the direction of their cities, which is certainly attractive for ourselves and our partner Moda Living in developing out our build-to-rent platform.
Now, as we were saying in the introduction, this is the first build-to-rent property project that Goldman Sachs has backed here in the UK. Was it easy to get them on board?
It was relatively easy to get them on board. Goldman Sachs are a global investor, both through equity and debt, into the build-to-rent market, as we call it here in the UK. More relevant to them historically has been global investments, particularly in the US. So they understand the sector itself and some of the advantages for it, which are namely that it's long-term, stable, diversified income streams that are counter-cyclical, that have a low volatility, and that are structurally supported. And in the UK at the moment we have 13 million people that rent, and the government are predicting over the coming years that will increase to 17 million. So we have to build homes, and this is a very attractive way of delivering those homes.
People would say, though, why, if you're going to all the trouble of building a site like this, why not make it properties for sale rather than rent?
Well, there is a systemic change in the way that people are living here in the UK, and a lot more people are renting rather than buying. And there's two primary reasons for that. The first is affordability. It's not the lack of availability for mortgages, it's more the fact that people cannot afford to save the deposits to enable them to buy a property. So the average unassisted first-time purchaser here in the UK is in their late 30s. And the other reason is a lifestyle product. With Moda, what we're delivering are high-quality, professionally managed buildings with services and amenities that are 5 to 10 minutes walk to where they work, shop and play. So it's very much a new, affordable lifestyle of living.
There's an awful lot of institutional money going into this asset class right now. I mean, Legal & General are going into it full pelt. I mean, do you worry that there's a bubble forming at all?
No, I don't, because if you look at the demand from the underlying rental population, that growing demand, and you look at the supply, this sector is in its absolute infancy. If you compare to the US, there are 90 million apartments and houses that are rented, and 21% of the total stock is owned by institutional investors. Here in the UK, it's as low as 1%. So there's a huge opportunity for more growth. It's a critical component of housing delivery for the government here, and the speed of delivery for that housing as well. So we are at the early stages of its development, certainly not at the latter stages.
All right, very interesting stuff. Come back and see us again, Richard Jackson. Thanks for joining me.